Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cosmic Conversations. I am your host, Marla Martenson, and I have a really special episode today. My guest is Sue Ping Negrin, and she is a healer and an author. And I am going to let you, Sue, introduce yourself, tell everybody what you're all about, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Marla. I'm so excited to be here, especially I love talking and working with other healers, and I love your work. And so I think we're very aligned on that spiritual aspect. So I am, as you said, Sue Ping Negrin, and I've been an acupuncturist for over 20 years. And I'd say as of late in the last 6 to 10 years, I've been transitioning over to more energy healing. And all that started basically about 14 years ago. Well, actually, no, not about 14 years. Sorry. I had insomnia for 14 years. So this is now probably about 20 something years ago, where the healthiest person just all of a sudden stop sleeping.
Wow.
And that just, yeah, wow. And I don't actually even know how I got through those first few years. People said, well, what does that mean? Did you actually lose your sleep? Like, how many hours were you sleeping? And I said, I actually don't think I slept any. Like, I think it was like maybe an hour, maybe half an hour. And that period went on for about 2 years. And I had a 6-month-old daughter, and also a 2.5-year-old. And I literally was pulling my hair out of my head. And I had just started my acupuncture practice, which was booming. So I was booming, new mom on no sleep.
Yeah.
And I just went down this path and I just explored everything, conventional, unconventional. And then one thing led to another. And that's when I started, I was introduced to a spiritual healer who treated me from afar. And I want what she's got.
Now, isn't it typical, though, for a new mother? I mean, to not sleep. I mean, 6 months old and a little toddler. I hear that they're up and down and feeding, and so. But this was beyond that, beyond just being a new mother and not being able to sleep.
Yeah, not being able to sleep is one thing, but not having any sleep, is another thing. And I mean, we're talking. It went from 100 to 0.
Wow. Yeah, because how can you even function? Somebody could just collapse and.
Yeah, I don't know actually how I functioned, but that journey, and I think a big reason why I just kept going. And if you know a little bit more about my history, which is in my book.
Yeah, fascinating. You got to talk a little bit about that here too.
Yeah. So I think all that was really, I'm a fighter, and I just knew based on my past and my dysfunctional family that I knew that something was bigger out there for me to explore. So that I was really being tested, or maybe not tested, but shown. And I think I always just had that. I said, I know this is preparing me for something. I didn't know what it was. So I went down this path of spiritual healing and working with a Native American Indian healer who really started this with me. And then one thing led to another. And I would say over the 14 years, I'd say maybe about year 4, I improved about 30%, 40%. And then I'd say before I discovered Qigong, my sleep had improved by about 60%. So I was still about 40% in deficit. And then my life changed after I introduced Qigong into my life.
And you came from a different world, weren't you? Corporate or you weren't.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I was born a real digit head. I'm a mathematician. I love math and logic and analytics. So I actually studied computer science and mathematics in college. And I was a computer consultant for about 12 years, 3 of which I actually worked at an investment bank. So I was really corporate. And then one thing led to another. We had some health issues in our family, and we had some fertility issues with us because my husband had cancer twice. So I regrouped knowing that was not my end game, was being in computer consulting. So I took the opportunity when I was 32 two, I believe, to change my careers. And I decided to go into medicine. I was almost going to go to medical school. I really thought that that's because I really love helping people in medicine, and wasn't really too happy about the way Western medicine was going. So I decided to go the Eastern route, and I just so blessed that I did.
Yeah, whereas Western medicine, it's like a Band-Aid, and then Eastern medicine gets to the root. So there's a part in your book that I just love that kind of explains this, and I'll have you speak to it. Chinese medicine practitioners heal illnesses by examining their patients' signs and symptoms and identifying the disharmonious pattern in the person's body that has caused this energetic disruption. We then provide our clients with insight into how they might correct these patterns so they can maintain their own well-being. When the cause is from a physical injury or diet, it is seemingly easier to correct. But when the cause is emotional or mental in nature, it is made much more difficult when the dictator brain is causing the problem. So I go to a Chinese herbalist in any little thing I have. If I have to go to a Western doctor, it would be because of an infection or something that, but generally the first thing I do is go to my Chinese herbalist. He sees the imbalance, what herbs I should take, what I should cut out of my diet. I love that. But what is the dictator brain?
Okay, well, just so you know, in that little section, there were a lot of things. And the one before we get to the dictator brain, I just want to help people understand this idea that we treat, as Chinese medicine practitioners, we treat patterns of disharmony as opposed to labels of disease. And this is actually a very important concept, and I'm sure, Marla, you've been to many acupuncturists and Chinese medicine practitioners, so you know that when you have a certain disease, in Western medicine, we categorize everybody in the same boat. So let's say you have, let's just talk about insomnia because that's what I had. So they treat the symptoms of insomnia. But the cause of insomnia could be many different reasons, right? It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be mental, it could be hormonal. Right. So even if we were to take it from a Western perspective, we would have to look and see which one is out of balance, and then we're going to treat that. So in Chinese medicine, it's the same idea. Which organ is out of balance? Is it the heart fire going up too much? Is it my liver qi that's angry? Right. So, and based on that, we have different herbs and different methods to heal that. Yes. So that I wanted to make sure that we understood that.
Yeah.
And then, as I said, if it's physical in nature, which is, honestly, that's the way I addressed it. I said, oh, I've got insomnia. What's going on? What am I eating? I went through, got rid of all the amalgams in my teeth, eliminated mercury because I had high mercury in my blood. So I went through all that. Nothing was really helping. It was making like a little dent. Then I said, oh, okay, am I not exercising enough? Oh, even meditation, am I not meditating enough? So I did all of those things, but nothing was shifting because what happened was it wasn't the symptom was physical because I couldn't sleep, but the etiology was not physical. Yeah. That's where it ended. The etiology was inside of me and my relationship to life. So I was allowing things to happen in my life that was coming into me. And that's why the book is actually called Stronger Than Your Stress, is because I realized that it was inside of me that wasn't able to stop the stress from coming inside of me, but really I was causing my own stress.
Yeah. Okay. So you got to the root of it, and then and the Native American healer helped you too.
She started the journey. And then why do I call it the dictator brain?
Yeah.
Okay. That's probably if there's one thing that anybody's going to get out of my book, is I hope it's that. Okay. I realized that at a very young age that I had this connection to my inner voice. And this inner voice, we can call it soul, we can call it, I heard people call it big consciousness or whatever it is. But it was a very distinctive voice inside of me that always guided me. It was like that beacon. It was that internal light that knew exactly what I needed to do for me. It was always here to protect me. And it's a very kind, gentle voice, right? I mean, I grew up, with a schizophrenic mom and an alcoholic dad, right? Pretty dysfunctional. And I just always had this guide, this internal guide inside of me. And here's the biggest problem. I thought the internal guide was up in here. Thought it was in my brain. And people kept saying, you're so smart. You're so wise. I was like, yeah, I have this unbelievable wisdom up here. And what started happening is that as we get older and as society has continued to expand our brain, right? The whole notion of expanding your brain, doing everything you can, get more than 10% of that brain.
Yeah.
Right. So read, study, do all this. So as my brain was expanding, I was losing my inner voice. And I went, oh, wait a minute. And that was what this work showed me. And that took 14 years, right? It was this evolution. And then I realized, wait a minute. I lost that inner voice, that guide inside me that said, you don't need to do this today because this is going to get you into trouble. You should be spending more time with your kids. Or you should not work on this client today because this client is a little bit toxic, and maybe work on them differently. And maybe you shouldn't take this course because you have 50 million other things going. And I just kept going and going and going and going, because what was I listening to?
Yeah.
My brain that said, you can do this, you can do this. And it just kept driving
through.
me.
We're told as women, power through.
Power through. Oh, yes. Superwoman. I was a super mom. I had 2 kids. People were like, I don't know how you did it. Oh, wait, Marla. After I gave birth to my first daughter, I went back to school 5 days later and took my final.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Right. Crazy. It's shocking that I didn't lose my sleep then.
Yeah.
And so it was this that was driving me. And this was squashing my inner voice, my soul. Yeah. And that realization, which happened, I would say, about 14 years later, when I realized, oh, shoot, that inner voice doesn't live up here. And it was because this took over that it squashed my inner voice. And then that led me for the next 6-7 years to figure out, where does that inner voice come from?
Yeah.
And to teach others.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And so what is Qigong for people who are not familiar with it? I was sharing with you before we jumped on here recording that my Reiki master, when I was being attuned to Reiki, she was very much also incorporated Qigong. And so I know it's a kind of an energy practice, but what is it that's different from other things? Just give a little overview of what Qigong is.
Sure. So I was attuned to Reiki level 1 and 2 as well. And so it's both the similar notion that there is this divine energy outside of us that we can channel and bring into us. And as a Reiki practitioner, it was, there are symbols that you were given, and then through those symbols, you had this energy from a specific lineage, from what I understand, right? Usui. And you basically, I'm sorry?
Yeah, that's one of them. There's different Reikis, but the Sui was what I was attuned to, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the most popular one.
Yes. Yeah.
So I became a Usui practitioner, and you're basically channeling energy, right? You stay as clean as possible, and you just channel this energy through you. And it was great. I think the only thing that I had, I was searching for was that, well, how does my energy fit into this? Because I'm very much a empowered woman, and I'm like, okay, that's great, but I want to know how I can take this energy and improve my own health, and this energy, what else can I do with this energy?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was always seeking. I was really always trying to understand the level of, this energy in this bigger picture. And I had always known about Qigong, and I had done variations of Qigong. But then when I started studying with Robert Pang, his Qigong is a little bit different. But Qigong is basically the understanding that we have this energy out there, and that we can harness this energy, bring it into us, and have it meld with our own energy to then produce, more chi, or chi in the way that we want to. So it's very much a very proactive and interactive process. Mm-hmm. And that for me is what really spoke to me about Qigong. So it's how you can basically do breathing and simple exercise to garner all the energies around you, bring it into your body to create the chi you want to create.
And for anybody who doesn't know what chi is energy. It's yes, means energy. Chi, ki.
But it's actually a little bit more than energy. It's actually a life force.
Life force
and
energy.
And the reason why I say life force is because this life force energy has the ability to create. So it's in its elemental form, it's chi, but when it interacts with various people, it becomes a new entity of chi. And that's the part that I think is so incredible about chi.
Now, what's the word gong mean? Qi gong. What's the gong?
Practice, cultivation.
Okay. Practice with life force energy. Got it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's all rooted on the same thing, Tai Chi and, Reiki. We all understand that there's this divine energy. It's just, I think Qigong is just a little bit broader in terms of how we can use this energy to, I hate to use the word manifest, but I will use it here, to manifest and have it become a reality in other things.
Now you talk about the chakras a little bit, and the chakras, that's where these wheels in the energetic, the chakras bringing in the life force energy. So the way our heart beats, it's because life force energy is coming in through the chakras, and that's what's animating us, correct?
Yes. So we have three, not chakras, but three dantians in Qigong world.
Talk about the dantian. Is that how you say it? Yes, that I hear about that, especially the one under the navel area, the sacral dantian.
Yes, that's the lower dantian, and that most people really resonate with that because that's the physical center. Okay. That's the earth, and that's physicality. That's what we inherit in terms of our, you can call it our immune system, and what we inherit prenatally from our parents. So because we live in such a physically oriented world, that's what most people gravitate towards. And that's, I'd say most of the Qigong that I did before I met Robert was based on that. But that's not what changed my life. Because again, physical health is the end game. That's where everything appears. But what we want to do is, before it becomes physical, that's where Qi is really powerful. So that's the lower dantian is physical. The middle dantian is known as the love center. But for me, this is where the soul lives. So for me, it's very spiritual. And then the upper dantian is considered wisdom. But again, even though it houses the brain, it's wisdom, it's universal wisdom. That's why the third eye is here, right? Because you're able to see beyond what your brain knows.
Right. And I remember I was in some kind of something in LA. It was some kind of a yoga practice type of thing. I forgot what it was called, but they were working with the dantian, and they'd have us hitting it like 100 times, or, work physically. Do you do that in your practice? You're kind of, light hitting that area.
Yeah, like tapping. Yeah, I have actually. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have actually a video on YouTube called Chi Awakening. It's one of my most popular videos, and I just basically we tap throughout the body on certain, down certain meridians, and that's just energizing your energy on a physical level, and it's great. It's kind of like giving yourself a self massage and like, just kind of stimulating it. So when you're doing that on the lower dantian, then what you're doing is you're really focusing on to energize that physical center of your body.
Okay. I love all this. This is so fantastic. So I can't wait to work with your program when I get through the whole book now. And I like that you've got, so you guys, she has little the
QR
codes to videos, and you can watch, short videos that are explaining things and doing things. So that's exciting, very interactive, instead of just trying to read it and all of that. So I would love to just delve a little bit in, since I'm a matchmaker and I'm a coach, and the big buzzword nowadays, and I've experienced it myself for 40 years, I just kept dating, marrying the same type of man, narcissistic qualities, verbal, emotional abuse. And many women that I talk to I'll interview somebody to be in my database to match with one of my bachelors. And, well, I just got a divorce a couple of years ago, and, well, he was a narcissist, or he was abusive, or, I hear it weekly. And I had to finally look at myself and say, well, it's easy to blame the men, but who's the common denominator? Me. I keep showing up for it. I keep marrying these type of men. I keep staying in the relationships. Where is the imbalance or the illness, whatever, in me, that I allow it or keep in? And then the pain of trying to, many women we just want to keep going back, or we can't let go, or we want to change them. And there's got to be, and I've kind of dedicated now my work to helping women with these blocks and understanding what's going on and being able to let go and raising the frequency and creating another kind of scenario for themselves, another kind of relationship where this doesn't keep happening. So what can you share about how we can work with this energy to heal some of that deep rooted, which probably is from childhood? It could be alcoholic parent, could be the parents got divorced, could be being bullied in school, whatever. So we want to heal. Do you think we can clear this or heal this at an emotional level?
Oh, yeah. But I will tell you, Marla, as I'm hearing you speak, and I certainly see it in most of the people who I work with, and you can tell me if the same, but there's that one common denominator, as you said, is you. But what is it about you, not you per se, but the audience out there, that keeps them repeating that pattern over and over and over again?
Yeah.
And for me, it boils down to self-worth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most of the people that I see don't feel good about themselves. And when you don't feel good about yourself, you can then go around and maybe the savior complex, you'll feel better about yourself if and you can actually help somebody. But really the problem is that there's this emptiness inside. You don't feel worthy. And you don't have the confidence in yourself, which is why my work is always about bringing you back to become strong and like yourself. Because let's face it, if you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you go, wow, I'm a really great person. Like I'm hot shit. Can I say that word?
Yeah.
And now if you're feeling that way, you're really feeling that way, do you think that you're going to want to be with a narcissist or an alcoholic?
And the interesting thing here is it must be a lot of it unconscious, because I always liked myself. I loved things I was doing. I was learning languages and traveling and doing things I loved, and nobody could stop me, even though these men tried to stop me from doing those things, saying that's, ridiculous. You're wasting your time, trying screaming at me. When are you going to quit? When are you going to give up? And I would just do it more. And I liked myself. I liked how I looked, even though they said, oh, you're too pale. You need longer nails. Your hair your boobs are too small, whatever. I heard it all, but I kept I liked myself, but it must have been in the subconscious where I kept sticking around for that abuse. It's that.
Well,
I don't know.
let me ask you though. So do you, I mean, because you've obviously reached a different level at this point because you've stopped that
I've
cycle,
done a
right?
lot
You've
of work
stopped
on
that pattern,
myself, a lot of
right?
work. Now I stopped
So
it.
let me ask you, how do you feel about yourself now versus when you were stuck in this pattern with all these idiotic men? Do you feel like you're different?
I feel after all the work I've done on myself, which is therapy, coaching, energy healing, psychic work, I mean, meditation, yoga, hot yoga for a year, crying for a year and a half, a lot of work to release a lot of trauma, because there's a lot of women who at 30 years, 40 years, they're still in this kind of dynamic. And, yeah.
Right. And I'm going to give you an example of a story of a client that I have worked with. And she's been married 20 something years. She's been relatively depressed for most of her life. And after working with me in the program for, it's a 9-week program, I'd say about month 3 or so, I started noticing a real change in her. And she said, yeah, I just feel really good. I'm not depressed anymore. And I said, well, so I said, how does that translate on a day-to-day? She said, now when my husband says something to me, I used to let it like really hurt me. And I used to hold it in and feel so badly about myself. And now she's like, well, you're an idiot. She's like, it had nothing to do with me. She was able to push it back to him. Yeah. And that is self-worth, self-confidence. She didn't allow that to come inside of her and weaken her anymore.
Right.
And that will now shift the dynamic of that relationship. Mm-hmm. Is he going to be okay with it now, this person who has more self-worth and self-confidence? And if he doesn't, then that relationship was built on her weakness.
Yeah, right? Because mm-hmm. Well, that maybe the person can change, but like if they really are a narcissist, it won't matter. They'll still,
right.
It's like they're right, you're wrong. You can pretend it doesn't bother you. You can, right. Oh, I don't take it in. You're an idiot. They'll still do it. So then right. I guess it's having that self-confidence to remove yourself.
Exactly. So that's why it has to start from you.
Yeah,
right. You have to do this work. And then once you're strong enough, you're like, oh, okay, well, does this work for me anymore? Are you willing to now meet me halfway because I've become healthier?
Yes.
And that's, so one thing, I have 3 girls. One of the things I always tell them is to please, before you get married, you want to become as whole and as happy with yourself, because that means from this strong place, you're going to select a partner from this strength that's going to meet it, support it, but doesn't cover up a deficiency. Yeah. And that, I think, is, I think that's, or not cover, but fill a deficiency in you. Because I think that happens a lot in a relationship, right? We have a deficient quality and this person is so outgoing and we wish we were that way. And we're going to gravitate because that person is filling this emptiness inside. So that's why I think it's really important to make sure your cup is as full as possible. I mean, obviously never 100%, but the healthier and stronger you come at any relationship, the healthier the relationship is and the more opportunity you're going to have in picking the right person.
Yeah. And I bring this up too, because I'm also an intuitive reader and I do tarot readings on a couple of hotlines, and I have people, one-on-one from my website, and especially on the hotlines, the women are calling in and what, can you see when I just met this guy? Is he the one? When is, oh, my ex, he left, he's with somebody else, but I want to know, what is he thinking? Is he coming back? When is he going to call? I haven't heard from this guy in 3 weeks. When is he going to call? What is he thinking? Is he thinking about me? Is he in love with me? What's he doing over there with this new person? And it's coming from a really, I have compassion for these people, but it's from a very sick place. It's all here. And instead of worrying about when they're going to call, it's like, well, what are you doing? and it's so hard because I'm not a fortune teller. I can't read someone's mind. I don't know when they're going to call, but I try to give them some coaching around it, like, about boundaries and about loving themselves and about do their shadow work and all of this stuff, so that they're not, even after they've been cheated on and left and with somebody else, they're still waiting for them to come back. And
okay.
Yeah.
So Marla, I do what you're saying. I see so much of that. But here's the thing. They know what to do. They truly know what to do. It's just in here. It's this that has taken over. And that's why I call it the dictator brain. And so my work is to shut this up.
Okay.
And it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. That's why my program is 9 weeks.
Okay.
That whole
but 9 weeks, that's nothing if you can fix
I know.
I mean, that's a great. I mean, that's not too much.
Oh, yeah.
But you got to do it. But you got to do it. But you got to do it. Yeah, you got to do the work.
Well, but the work, here's why it's so incredibly effective. The work doesn't come from here.
Okay.
The work does not come from here. I connect directly, to help you connect directly to your spiritual energy. This interrupts that. So 9 weeks I spend untangling, deconditioning this thought. And it's incredible. And then, because we already know the answer here.
Yes.
We got it. We're just listening to wrong consciousness.
Yes. Okay. So question, this is so exciting. So
yes.
Now, can people do this just from your book and everything, or do you work, or it's both? You work one-on-one with people? How do you, for the 9 weeks, or what do you do to help people?
Well, my program is traditionally 9 weeks and it's in a group. But okay. So when I do group coaching, and I used to do one-on-one, I don't do that anymore. But this book has literally my entire program, all of those qigongs that took me 6 years to create, that's all in there. Okay. And so, yes, in theory, you could read all that and get to an unbelievable place. Will they need personalized coaching or group coaching? I do still think they may, because this is really hard to crack. Mm-hmm. We may come out of a qigong and be like, oh my God, this is great. And then we go out there, and what's the rhetoric out there? What are we told over and over again? Mm-hmm. Expand your brain. So there's a little duality going.
Right.
So I'm here to just reinforce it. And then what happens is the shift is, once you start to really know where your soul is, really know where your spiritual center is, that's going to start to ground this dictator brain. And that takes a while, but hopefully over time, as you see the benefits of this. And what's incredible, Marla, is by the end of 9 weeks, mm-hmm. and I say this truthfully, every single person has seen the light. They go, oh my God, every single one.
Wow.
I offer 100% money back guarantee, because I said, you know what? I wasn't getting people in. I'm like, all right, at the end of 9 weeks, I'll give you 100% money back. I've never had to do it.
Okay. So
we maintain it.
And then, so as far as physical, like I have a friend who has issues with her bladder now, or, maybe somebody has whatever pain. So this is all that energy work is going to clear up physical as well.
Well, okay, I can't guarantee it's going to clear up everything
that's the
physical.
Work that could do it.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I have people who are like, I'm going to PT every week, and I've had back pain, I've had stomach pain. I mean, people have cancer. I mean, a lot of people who have cancer also are in my group, and they feel better. Their test results are great. And why is that? Because we've gotten rid of the conflict in the body between this and this. This conflict keeps, and as you know, keeps these blockages and prevents us from vibrating at a higher level.
Right.
But I also do healings. I in my group, I do a healing every single week. And this is probably the most exciting thing that I'm going to be doing. I am recording these. I have all these recordings, and they're going out into a store. I have an energy healing store where I record these vibrational healings that transmit electromagnetic waves, and they clear the channels on specific parts of the body. And I'm going to have them for a whole wide variety of ailments, back pain, headaches, and, if you have breast cancer, there's going to be one that's going to open up the breast channels. That's really exciting.
That's exciting. Are you going to do that on MP3s too? People could just download those.
Yes. Yeah. So my plan is it's going to be, right now I have like 4, and I just want to get it out right away, and you can buy them individually. But this is what I'm really planning. This is the exciting part, is that I'm going to have a whole library of them, and that you're going to have a membership. And on a day, instead of taking that Tylenol, you can be like, oh, wow, you know what? There's a 15-minute healing to open up the channels in my head.
Wow.
Let me do that. And I relax, and it's helping me heal. And you'll come out of it and you'll be like, oh, okay, I feel better. I don't need that Tylenol right now.
Well, a great example, you're talking about the breast channels and all of that. When I was always in that chaos, the arguing, the defending myself, I developed in the right breast. It felt like there was something in there. It felt like the feeling was like as if I'd had surgery and the doctor left a little makeup sponge in there or something. It felt like there was like a sponge or something in there. And it was just, I couldn't figure it out. And I had scans and they said, there's nothing there. And I guess it was energetic. It was emotional. And then after, when I calmed down and I got myself out of the home and stopped arguing and all of that, I don't have it. And then once in a while it'll reappear, but then it'll go away more. So that's, I think, a good example of that, chaos that will bring up a symptom in the body. And that's chi. That's when you have a chi health issue, that's the best, because that comes and goes. It's not fixed. We always say blood issues, that's fixed. That's what they can actually see under a scan. Chi issues are great because it comes and goes. They're relatively easy to fix. And now you've told me, okay, you had all this issue, you were fighting a lot, so that affected your liver channel. The liver channel is very much affects the breast. So anger, anger, frustration. Yes, and fantastic. Well, Sue, thank you so much for sharing all of this amazing information. And you guys, her book, her website is all linked up in the show notes. And thanks, Sue.
Thank you so much, Marla. It was really great speaking with you.
Bye, everybody. Till next time.